Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're wading into these waters that, well, every single one of us has to swim in them pretty much every day.
Absolutely. Every day.
Yeah, it's that complex and sometimes really messy, sometimes exhilarating world of social interaction. And I want you, the listener, to picture a very specific feeling. It's right around 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon.
Oh, the Friday feeling.
Exactly. You're sitting there, maybe finishing up some work, and suddenly, ding, a notification pops up on your phone.
Well, let me guess. It's the group chat.
It is the group chat. Plans are being made. People are throwing out ideas for drinks, dinner, maybe hitting a club later.
Yes. The Friday crossroads. It's the moment of truth.
We're at the crossroads. And for some people listening right now, let's be honest, that notification it's like a shot of adrenaline.
Yeah.
It's the bell ringing. They're thinking, finally, the week is over, let's go. But for
It's
others,
absolute dread.
complete dread. It's a mental calculation. You're sitting there looking at your screen, just thinking, do I even have enough fuel in the tank to survive like 3 hours of conversation?
And that calculation, that exact moment of hesitation or excitement is exactly what we are digging into today.
Yes.
We're looking at the actual mechanics of social energy. Because we aren't just talking about, being friendly versus being rude.
Right, or being the fun person versus the boring person.
Exactly. We're talking about biological and psychological distinctives. It's almost like we have different operating systems for how we process the world around us.
And to really guide us through this today, we are looking at a incredibly interesting conversation from Nagi and Maki's daily life. Specifically, we're pulling from their 7th episode. It's just this fascinating look at two very, very different ways of existing in the world.
Yeah.
We're talking about the spectrum between the social butterfly on one end and the social avoider on the other.
And what's particularly useful about this source material, why I was so excited to dive into it, is that it frames these concepts not just as cute personality quirks.
Right.
It frames them as energy management styles. And that is incredibly relevant, especially if you are, say, 23 years old right now.
Oh, definitely.
You're maybe stepping into a new office culture for the first time, or maybe you're a beginner at learning a second language, and you're trying to navigate this totally new social circle where you just don't feel 100% confident yet.
I remember that exact feeling so vividly. You walk into a room, you don't know anyone, and you get that immediate moment of panic.
The fight or flight response.
Exactly. Do I dive right into the crowd,
Yeah.
or do I hide in the corner by the snack table?
Right.
So our mission today is to really unpack these two archetypes that Nagi and Maki represent for us. We want to understand the mechanics of the social battery. I absolutely love that term, by the way.
The perfect metaphor.
It really is.
Yeah.
And we want to figure out how to handle the dreaded small talk, regardless of which side of the fence you sit on.
Well, I think it's important to start with the definitions provided right in our source material because they give us this great shared vocabulary. It completely strips away the judgment.
Let's do it. Let's start with the social butterfly.
Okay.
In the source, we have the character Nagi. He describes himself pretty clearly. He says a social butterfly is someone who flies from person to person, just talking to everyone.
And that visual metaphor of flying is quite potent, isn't it?
It really is.
It suggests this lightness, a mobility, and a certain kind of erratic but purposeful movement around a room.
Yeah, buzzing around.
Right. And Nagi connects this directly to the term extrovert. But the key characteristic he highlights isn't just that he talks a lot. It's about the actual effect of the talking.
What it does to him internally.
Exactly. He says he does not get tired of it. In fact, he explicitly states in the source that he gains energy from people.
And that is the crucial distinction, right? It's the fuel source. I think people get this wrong all the time in everyday conversation.
Oh, constantly.
They think extroversion is just about liking people and introversion is about hating people.
But that's entirely false. It's about the direction of the energy flow. For Nagi, the crowd is literally a battery charger. If you look closely at the source, he mentions that staying home alone creates feelings of loneliness and boredom.
Yeah, he hates it.
The silence is actually a negative space for him. It drains him.
Precisely. Now, contrast that totally with the social avoider, who is represented by Maki.
Right.
Her definition is someone who might, quote, hide from parties.
Hide is such a strong word to use there.
It really is.
It almost implies a threat, like she's under attack from the social gathering.
It does feel like that for some people. And she also mentions preferring a quiet corner with coffee. She associates this with the term introvert, but she actively uses social avoider for those specific moments when that urge to withdraw is at its strongest.
And her key characteristic, she says, large groups create too much noise.
Too much noise.
That phrase really resonated with me when I was reviewing the source. Too much noise, it's sensory overload.
Yeah.
So for the avoider, solitude isn't loneliness at all. It's a biological requirement. It's completely necessary for them to function.
And that brings us to the core conflict, or rather the core difference in this whole discussion. We aren't just talking about social preferences.
Yeah.
We're talking about genuine biological needs.
Right. So let's unpack the mechanics of the social butterfly first.
Yeah.
This is theme number 1 from our analysis. We've established that for Nagi, our archetype here, noise and crowds are exciting.
Yes. For the butterfly, external stimulation acts as a stimulant. You can think of it like a solar panel.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, they need the sun, they need the people, the noise, the interaction to actually generate power.
Right.
If you take a solar panel and put it in a dark room, it just stops working.
Mm-hmm.
That's Nagi in isolation.
That's a great analogy. So when Nagi is at a busy party, he's not expending effort in the same way an avoider is. He is plugging in.
Correct. And this fundamental difference completely influences how they view small talk.
Yes, the small talk issue.
This is a major point in the source material. Nagi actually views small talk as a game.
A game. I love that framing. When I read that, I thought, okay, games are fun. Games have rules. Games have winners.
Exactly.
So topics like the weather or hobbies or weekend plans, for a butterfly, these aren't boring filler conversations. They are the playing field.
But if you flip that perspective entirely,
Right.
for the learner or the avoider, and Maki specifically mentions this in the context of people who are language learners.
Right. The beginners.
Small talk is often seen as an absolute nightmare.
Nightmare. That is a very visceral reaction to just chatting about the weather.
Yeah.
Why the massive difference? Why is it a fun game for one person and a literal horror show for the other?
Well, the source suggests it's heavily tied to the fear of making mistakes. This is particularly true in a language learning context, like we mentioned.
Why, of course.
But it goes even deeper for the avoider. Small talk feels entirely surface level.
Mm-hmm.
It requires this rapid-fire processing of social cues, but without any of the payoff of a deep connection, which we'll get into a bit later. Essentially, it just feels like work.
Right. If you are an avoider or if you're someone learning a new language, you aren't just chatting. You are analyzing every single variable.
Every variable.
You're thinking, did I use the right grammar just now? Is my accent weird?
Right.
Does this person actually even care about my weekend, or are they just being polite? You are running a high-intensity simulation in your brain for a conversation that ultimately has very little payoff.
That is the key right there. It's high effort, low reward.
Exactly. It feels like surface-level data entry for your brain. It is exhausting.
So if you are a listener right now who identifies way more with the avoider side or the learner side, and the very idea of small talk feels like a nightmare to you,
Listen up.
Nagi offers a really specific strategy in the source. He calls it the 50-50 rule.
This right here is actionable advice gold.
It really is. The 50-50 rule posits that being a social butterfly isn't actually about dominating the conversation.
Which is counterintuitive.
It is. Nagi says it's 50% talking and 50% listening.
This blew my mind a little bit when we were prepping for this deep dive, because we usually think of the loud extrovert as someone who just loves the sound of their own voice.
Right, someone he holds court and gives a monologue.
But Nagi says no. If you're nervous, just ask questions.
It's a deflection strategy, but it doubles as a perfect social lubricant.
Yes.
The source even suggests very specific, simple questions. Things like, where are you from? Or, what do you do for fun?
Simple, right.
Deceptively simple. What this actually does is shift the entire burden of performance.
Exactly. If you are the one asking the question, you are technically controlling the flow of the conversation, but the other person is doing all the heavy lifting of actually generating the content.
So let's play this out. If I am at a networking event and I'm absolutely terrified, I don't need to come up with some witty monologue to impress people.
No, you don't.
I just need to turn to the person standing next to me, smile, and say, so, what do you do for fun? And suddenly, I am off the hook.
You are off the hook. You are initiating the interaction, which definitely counts as socializing.
Right.
But then you immediately get to retreat into the safe role of the listener. It makes the whole interaction incredibly manageable for the beginner, or for the avoider who is just trying to pass as a butterfly for the evening.
I think that is incredibly empowering. You don't have to fundamentally change your personality to survive a party. You just have to change your tactical approach.
It's social judo.
Yes. social judo.
You use their extroverted energy to keep the interaction moving without draining yourself.
And that concept of draining leads us perfectly into the psychology of the social avoider. Because even if you have the best tactics in the world, the underlying energy economy is fundamentally different.
We need to talk about the social battery.
Yes. This was easily my favorite part of the source material. Maki introduces this metaphor of the social battery. She compares human energy directly to a smartphone battery.
It is a ubiquitous metaphor for a very good reason. It perfectly captures the finite nature of an introvert's social endurance.
Totally.
Maki explains it so clearly. For butterflies, people charge the battery. For avoiders, people drain the battery.
It's not a malfunction, it's just a totally different battery chemistry.
Correct. And the source actually highlights a highly specific scenario to illustrate this. Maki ends up canceling dinner plans on a Friday night.
The Friday crossroads again.
Exactly. Nagi asks her about it later. He's kind of laughing, and Maki has to explain to him, I didn't hate you, I just ran out of social battery.
That right there is such an important distinction for you to grasp. Think about how many times you've taken it personally when a friend cancels on you or when they leave a party early.
Oh, all the time.
We automatically think, oh, they must be bored, or I did something wrong, they don't like me.
But Maki clarifies that when the battery hits, say, 5%, the critical warning zone, the avoider needs to leave.
Yeah.
And it is not because of the quality of the company. It's because they are physically and mentally depleted. They are shutting down.
So what does the actual recharge look like? We know the butterfly recharges by going to a loud club. How does the avoider get back to 100%?
The source is very specific here, too. Alone time.
Alone time.
It is the absolute necessity of metaphorically plugging yourself into a wall. Maki lists a few things: reading a book, watching Netflix, and most importantly, not talking to anyone.
Not talking to anyone, just pure silence. That silence is the physical charger cable.
It is the absence of input. You have to remember, the avoider's brain is often processing all those social stimuli so deeply.
Right, the data entry we talked about.
Exactly. To recover from that, they need to completely stop the data stream. It's about the absence of demand.
Demand. That's a good word for it.
When you are talking to someone, even if it's a really close friend that you love, there is a demand on your attention. You have to reciprocate. You have to emote.
You have to nod. You have to react.
Right. Alone time completely removes that demand.
Now, there is a very common misconception that the source clears up, and I think we really need to highlight it here. It's the difference between being shy and being an avoider.
This is vital.
Mhm.
Often, society just lumps these two things together into one big category.
Yeah, if you're quiet, you're just shy.
But the source material draws a very sharp line. Shy is defined as being afraid to talk. It is rooted in anxiety or a fear of judgment from others.
Whereas an avoider,
An avoider is defined by a preference for peace and quiet. It is not fear at all. It's a choice based on their own comfort and their own value systems.
and what exactly is that value system?
Maki says it explicitly in the text. Avoiders value deep conversations over small talk. She states point blank she would rather talk to one best friend for 3 straight hours than talk to 20 strangers for 5 minutes.
That is the ultimate quality over quantity metric.
Exactly.
The butterfly might actively seek out the quantity of interactions. They want the buzz of the crowd, the many faces. But the avoider is seeking the depth of the connection.
And the beauty of it is neither is wrong. They are just seeking completely different rewards from their environment.
Which brings us nicely to our third major theme today, finding balance and developing a social strategy. Because the source concludes very clearly that neither style is actually better than the other.
Right. At one point, Nagi literally asks, is one style better? And Maki answers without hesitation, not at all. There is this beautiful concept of ecological balance at play here.
Ecological balance. Tell me a bit more about how that works in this context.
Well, the source puts it this way. The world absolutely needs butterflies to start the party.
Right.
They are the social catalysts. They bring the high energy. They make the introductions. They provide the spark. But the world also desperately needs avoiders to keep things calm and thoughtful.
That is such a nice image. You need someone to light the fire to get the energy going, but you also need someone to tend the hearth and keep it from burning the house down.
Exactly. Think about it. If everyone in the world were a butterfly, it would just be chaotic, endless noise. No one would ever listen.
Right.
But if everyone were an avoider, no connections would ever be initiated in the first place. We'd all just be in our quiet corners with our coffee.
So practically speaking, how do these two types actually navigate each other in the real world? Because Nagi and Maki are close friends, despite having these massive energetic differences.
They actually discuss navigating social boundaries openly. For the butterfly, the big lesson is about respecting personal space.
Oh, this is so important.
Nagi admits in the dialogue that he has learned he shouldn't force his quiet friends into loud environments like clubs every single weekend.
That is huge. If you are the extroverted friend listening to this deep dive right now, you have to realize that dragging your introverted friend out, thinking you're doing it for their own good, might actually be actively draining them. That classic line, "You just need to loosen up and get out more." It is the bane of every introvert's existence.
It is incredibly patronizing because it assumes the introvert is somehow broken
Yeah.
and needs fixing with loud music and crowds.
Right.
Nagi realizes that he was actually draining his friends by doing that. So the lesson for the butterfly is very simple. Invite them, include them, but graciously accept the no. Don't take it personally.
Conversely, for the avoider, Maki mentions the importance of stepping out of my comfort zone.
Because there is a trap there too. If you stay in that quiet corner with your coffee forever, you risk missing out on some truly great friendships. Avoidance cannot be absolute. There has to be a compromise.
Yeah, you simply can't meet that one best friend you want for those 3-hour deep conversations if you never leave the house to actually go find them.
Exactly. The compromise is key. Maybe the avoider agrees to go to the party, but just for 1 hour.
Right.
They go, they do the social judo we talked about, they ask a few 50-50 questions, and then they politely leave before their battery hits 0.
We also have some very specific strategies for the learner persona that were mentioned in the source. This is for the person who is maybe brand new to a language or totally new to a social circle and feeling out of their depth.
Yes. Nagi and Amaki offer 2 very comforting pieces of advice here. First is the quiet avoider strategy. They actively affirm that it is completely acceptable to just listen.
We often feel this pressure, like if we aren't talking constantly, we aren't really participating. Like we're just taking up space or we're just furniture in the room.
But listening is a highly valid form of participation.
Especially for beginners.
Absolutely. Especially for language learners, active listening is how you absorb the rhythm of the conversation. It's how you learn the vocabulary in context.
Right.
You are still fully present. You are still part of the circle. Your body language is saying, I am here and I am engaged. And sometimes that is enough.
And the second tool they give us.
The universal tool. If you are struggling with words or your battery is getting low, remember that a smile is the international language.
It sounds a bit cliche when you first hear it, but it really works, doesn't it?
It does.
A genuine smile signals openness to the room without requiring a single joule of verbal energy from your battery.
It perfectly bridges the gap. It tells the butterfly in the room, hey, I am friendly, I am open, I just don't have the words right now, or I don't have the energy right now.
So pulling all of this together, what does this all mean for you listening right now? Whether you identify strongly as a Nagi or a Maki or maybe somewhere in between on the spectrum.
I think it ultimately comes down to the source's closing message, acceptance of self.
Nagi says it so well. Whether you are a butterfly or an avoider, the most important thing is to be yourself.
It is essentially giving you permission to not feel guilty if you need to stay home and protect your peace on a Friday night.
Right.
And equally, permission to not feel like you are being too much if you genuinely love to talk and fly around the room.
We spend so much of our lives trying to be the other thing. The introverts try so hard to fake being outgoing to fit in, and the extroverts try to tone themselves down to not overwhelm people.
It's exhausting for everyone.
It is. The source is basically saying stop. Just know your battery.
Know your battery. Monitor your percentage. That is the real discipline here.
Speaking of which, I want to leave you, our listener, with a final provocative thought to just mull over as you go about your day. We've spent this time talking about the battery metaphor, the charging, the draining.
Right.
I want you, right now, to pause and honestly identify something. What is your current internal battery percentage? Are you sitting at a cool 90% ready to take on the world? Or are you hovering around 15%?
And critically, based on that number, what is the one thing you need to do for yourself right now? Do you need to go out and fly, or do you need to go home and plug in?
Figure out what that is, and don't apologize for it. Just do it.
Charge your battery. That was their sign-off, and it's a perfect one.
It's great advice. So, to all of our social butterflies and all of our social avoiders out there listening, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a real pleasure.
Go charge those batteries, however it is you do it. We will see you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.